We got a call yesterday from a lawyer that typically represents hospitals and doctors, and he had noticed that we were investigating a claim against a company called Biotel. Biotel is a company that makes mobile cardiac telemetry devices. And so if you're having an abnormal rhythm or the doctor thinks you may be having an abnormal heartbeat, they can prescribe for you to wear this device on the outside of your body that basically monitors your heart rhythm, and if you have any abnormal rhythms, it is supposed to communicate that information to the Biotel company, and then the Biotel monitor is supposed to contact the physician's office or the hospital, depending on how it's worked out. And we have a situation where obviously a client had abnormal rhythms, and it sent the information to the Biotel company. The Biotel company argues that they passed that information on to the medical practice, but the medical practice doesn't show any evidence that that happened. So this lawyer was calling me not about our case, but about another situation here in Pensacola where the exact same thing happened. And given the fact that there were more than one, he suggested, this defense lawyer who represents hospitals and doctors as part of his daily routine, he suggested that it might be a good idea to get it online and talk about the fact that these things are not working. It appears these things are not working as they're designed. So we wanted to pass this information on to the public. I'm going to let Dr. Malone talk about the device that's being investigated in this situation, and the allegations around this device relate to it not that it's not functioning, it's recording the abnormal rhythms, but the process involves also communicating that abnormal rhythm to the medical provider who's supposed to be in touch with the patient. And the allegations are that the communication is breaking down somewhere along the chain. So, Dr. Malone, talk about the device itself, and if somebody has it, what they should do, how they verify that it's the one that they have is actually working properly. In other words, the communication loop is intact.
Yeah.
Right.
So these devices have been around a while, meaning heart monitors. So a Holter monitor or a event monitor, people have been going home with these things for a long time. And that is something that the data is collected, and then after the fact, it is analyzed by a physician or a specialist trained in electrophysiology, which is the way your heart beats. And in those settings, it was keep a diary. Okay, so you're out cutting the lawn, you feel short of breath, all this stuff. Say you were cutting the lawn at this time of the day, you felt short of breath, and then 2 weeks from now when they download your device, they're gonna say, oh, that makes sense, you were having this arrhythmia. Well, Biotel offers something that is real time, and this is the newfangled way of doing it, where there is a real-time 24/7 monitoring. Think of someone watching every single one of your heartbeats, sitting at home basically. These are technicians who that is their job, to monitor the telemetry reading from your heart. And then based on what happens with your heart, if it's certain arrhythmias or not, there are thresholds on, oh, I'm supposed to call the prescribing doctor. Or, oh, we're supposed to send a fax transmission to the doctor's office to let them know this is going on.
It could be 2 a.m.
Yeah, exactly. And it's 24 hours a day, and the prescribing doctor will often have an agreement with Biotel to say, I want to be called for these events, or I want to be faxed for these events.
And how will they know if they have one of these devices?
So it'll say Biotel right on it. You'll get packaging with it. You'll get instructions.
Is this a picture of one of them?
That is one of them.
We'll put a link to this on the video below here, but it says MCOT, which is, what is that?
Mobile Cardiac Outpatient Telemetry. And these are unique in that they feed through your phone. So the device hooks up to your body, and like sometimes on a necklace, kind of like a lanyard, and then your phone has a Bluetooth app. So you can message the company through it too. You can say, I was having shortness of breath, and you're doing it on an app now. So that would be an easy way to know if you have this, because it's app-based. It'll say Biotel on it or Phillips. And so many times it's, when you're getting this, ask those questions of the person who's prescribing this, who's putting this on you. Say, how do I know what's getting back to you? Or should I, what are the different criteria? Ask those questions and then ask them what your responsibilities are for tracking your symptoms as well. So that's how I'd ask. There's no way I can assure or come up with a way to assure that there's a feedback loop, as you had mentioned, other than to call your doctor's office and say, you know what, last night I was feeling miserable. I document all this stuff. Did you guys get any calls from BioTel, from the technicians? That'd be a good way, I guess, to follow up.
I think if you have a BioTel device, given what we know about this situation, I think you need to make sure that somebody at the doctor's office does I'm sure they have a way of testing the feedback loop, whether it means hook it up to a machine and see if they call, or whether it means they do some other way to test the device. But I would make sure your device and your feedback loop is tested. And I would want something in writing from the practice, the medical practice, that says, we understand that you hear that there's a problem with this feedback loop, that people aren't getting the calls for whatever reason. We have checked it on our end, and it appears that everything's intact and there's no issues with the communication loop. I would want something in writing from my doctor or the doctor's practice before I would be okay with wearing this and relying on it. Because the whole purpose of you being outpatient monitored is the security is that you have this device, right? So if you have these abnormal rhythms, somebody's going to know in real time that you're having them. And otherwise, they would have you in the hospital where you would certainly be monitored. And the reason they're letting you out is because these companies are making money off these devices. So it's really important also that you understand, by making this video, I've used the word allegations. Our case has not concluded. It's just starting, actually. And so we're not dead positive that the issue is with this device alone or the company alone.
The service.
The service.
Callback service.
It could be a weak link in the medical practice that we haven't discovered yet. But given the fact that this lawyer called me who represents medical practices that use these devices, he said it's not an isolated situation, that medical practices are not getting the calls from the company. So that is the reason we feel like this is necessary, but we haven't concluded that in our case yet. We just know that there's an allegation of that in our case, and we know that at this point we're looking at that as a real possibility, given the fact that it's happened to more than one person in our community. So it's a public service announcement in part, and in part basically an advertisement that if you or a family member has been prescribed one of these, hopefully you get confirmation that it works before something horrible happens, like it did to our client who passed away from an abnormal or dysrhythmia that was preceded by many or several abnormal rhythms that were collected and not passed on for whatever reason, or not perceived by the medical practice. So long and short of it is, if you have one of these devices with a family member or a close friend or yourself, and you have questions, you can call us at call us at 855-HIRE-JOE, or find us on the web at Zarzaur Law. At the very least, if you don't want to feel like reaching out to a lawyer because you hadn't had a negative consequence, I would definitely reassure myself by presenting this information to the physician's office that prescribed this device. And you can tell them that not only did Mr. Zarzaur and Dr. Malone say this, but there is a defense lawyer here in Pensacola who I will not name, but who works for hospitals and doctors every day of the week in defending their lawsuits, who has told me that he knows of at least one other patient that had an exact same scenario. So let's pay attention to these devices. I want everybody safe. Call us if you have other questions. Thank you.